What if I told you that the most powerful people in the room are often the quietest? While others exhaust themselves with endless chatter, revealing their weaknesses and desperation for validation, the truly influential sit back, observe, and strike with surgical precision when the moment is right. Today, we dive into Machiavelli's most cunning secret: how to dominate any conversation without falling into the trap of over-speaking. You're about to learn 6 ruthless techniques that will transform you from a mere participant into the puppet master of every social interaction. You must understand this: silence is not the absence of speech. It is the presence of control. When you master silence, you no longer compete for attention. You command it. Machiavelli would say, "He who governs his tongue governs the minds of men." And that is exactly what calculated silence does. It governs. When you walk into a room, when words start flying, when people argue, joke, flatter, or exaggerate, most believe dominance comes from speaking the most. But Machiavelli would laugh at that illusion. The one who speaks endlessly is the one losing power with every word. Because every sentence exposes intention, every reaction reveals emotion, and every word becomes a weapon others can use against you. A true strategist speaks less, listens more, and uses silence as an invisible wall, one that others can't see through, but constantly try to. Think of how silence feels in a conversation. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? It makes people restless. They feel the need to fill it, to break it, to prove they are still in control. And that's exactly when they begin to reveal themselves. Their words spill out like nervous confessions, trying to fill a void they can't stand. But for you, that void is not weakness. It's a weapon. The silence you hold creates tension, and tension is the invisible thread that moves people without them realizing it. When others rush to fill it, you're already in control. You've made them move, speak, and act without lifting a finger. And that is pure Machiavellian mastery. Machiavelli understood that silence unsettles people because it mirrors their own insecurity. When you don't respond, they start questioning themselves. Did I say something wrong? Did I offend him? Is he unimpressed? And that uncertainty works in your favor. The more they question themselves, the more they begin to adapt their behavior to please you, to win your approval, to regain the balance you quietly disrupted. That is how dominance works, not by force, but by creating invisible pressure through restraint. The weak speak quickly to relieve their tension, the powerful delay to control it. Silence also magnifies the value of your words. If you speak rarely, your words become events. They are remembered, replayed, and analyzed long after you've said them. People start to think, he doesn't talk much, so when he does, it must mean something. That's how legends are built. Not from endless explanations, but from moments of deliberate, timed speech surrounded by a fortress of silence. When you stay quiet, you also give yourself the advantage of observation. You see the cracks in others' confidence. You notice who interrupts, who tries to dominate, who agrees too quickly. Every second you remain silent, you gather intelligence. Every reaction you study becomes a map of the room's power dynamics. By the time you do speak, you already know exactly who's worth addressing and how to use your words to tilt the balance. Machiavelli once wrote that men judge more by their eyes than by their touch, because everyone sees but few truly understand. Silence allows you to be the one who understands. It gives you space to think while others drown in their own noise. It makes you unpredictable, because no one knows whether your quiet is agreement, disapproval, or strategy. And that uncertainty turns you into an enigma. People fear what they cannot read. In politics, in war, and in human behavior, silence has always been the unseen tactic that shifts outcomes. Kings have lost kingdoms because they spoke one word too many. Generals have won wars because they waited for the enemy to speak first. You can use that same principle in every conversation. Wait, listen, Let the other person build the illusion of control while you build the truth of it in silence. And when you finally do speak, your words will have the weight of thunder, because they emerge from a storm of patience. You will find that people lean in when you talk. They measure your tone. They watch your expression. They treat every word like it holds secret meaning. That's what silence buys you: gravitas, presence, a sense of unspoken authority that no amount of loudness can create. Every ruler, every cunning diplomat, every strategist Machiavelli ever studied understood this law. Those who talk constantly seek validation. Those who can remain silent already possess it. So, the next time you're in a conversation and you feel the pull to respond, to explain, to defend, resist it. Let the silence do your work. Watch how the balance shifts toward you. Notice how their words grow nervous, their tone unsure. Because when silence is mastered, it becomes the most articulate form of speech imaginable. It's not emptiness, it's elegance. It's not passivity, it's precision. Silence is the invisible armor that makes others reveal their weakness long before you ever reveal your strength. There is a language far more powerful than words, the language of presence. Machiavelli knew this well. He understood that a ruler could command loyalty, respect, even fear, without uttering a single syllable. How? By mastering the art of the gaze. Your eyes are your true weapon in conversation. They reveal nothing of your weakness yet communicate everything about your dominance. Most people underestimate the silent conversation that happens before words are even spoken. In every interaction, eyes clash before voices do. A glance can make someone feel small, or it can elevate them. It can reassure or it can terrify. Machiavelli believed that control begins here, in how you look, not just in how you speak. Because while words can be doubted, tone can be misinterpreted, and promises can be broken, the eyes expose certainty. The eyes project authority that the tongue can never fabricate. When you maintain calm, unwavering eye contact, you create psychological pressure. You signal confidence, control, and composure. And people, whether they realize it or not, respond to that energy. They begin to adapt to you. They slow their tone. They choose their words carefully. They watch you for approval, waiting for the smallest reaction. Without speaking, you've made them adjust their entire rhythm to yours. That's power. That's silent domination. Machiavelli would observe that people crave validation. They need acknowledgement, and when you withhold it, not rudely, but strategically, you create a subtle imbalance. They start seeking your gaze as if it were a mirror that confirms their worth. The moment you look at them, even slightly, they feel rewarded. The moment you look away, they feel dismissed. This invisible control over attention is what separates rulers from the ruled. You don't have to interrupt or outtalk anyone. You simply have to own the space between glances. But here's where most fail. They look with anxiety, not authority. Their eyes dart, avoid, or seek approval. Machiavelli would warn that this exposes the mind's chaos. A steady gaze, however, suggests inner composure. It tells the world, I am unmoved by your words. I am not here to prove myself. That calmness forces others into discomfort because people are not used to being seen without being immediately reassured. Your silence and your eyes together become an interrogation, a test they can't quite understand but desperately want to pass. In courtly politics, Machiavelli noted that those who spoke too much often revealed their ambitions, but those who simply watched created fear and fascination. The gaze of a silent man becomes a mystery, and mystery always wins attention. Because when people can't read you, they imagine you as something greater than you are. They fill the blanks with power. They invent narratives about your calm. He must know something. She must be confident. He must be in control. And the irony is, those stories make you exactly what they believe. In modern life, the same principle applies. In meetings, in arguments, in negotiations, your eyes can do what 100 speeches cannot. A silent, steady look at the right moment can interrupt someone's arrogance, expose a liar, or calm an entire room. It's not aggression, it's quiet command. Machiavelli would remind you never let your eyes wander aimlessly. Every glance must be deliberate. Look as if you are evaluating, not reacting. Look as if you are deciding, not competing. Because in truth, the one who observes first decides how the game will end. You can test this easily. When someone dominates a discussion, instead of interrupting, look directly at them and say nothing. Hold that silence with composure. You'll notice it, the shift. Their tone falters slightly. They begin to talk faster, justify more, explain themselves unnecessarily. That's when you know your presence has taken control. They're no longer speaking to share. They're speaking to convince you. And that's when power quietly transfers from their mouth to your eyes. Machiavelli believed that appearances govern perception, and perception governs obedience. The calm gaze of a silent man creates the illusion of higher understanding. People start assuming you know more than you reveal. They begin to defer to your quiet judgment. And in a world where everyone is shouting, the one who watches is the one who wins. Your gaze becomes a mirror reflecting other people's insecurities, their motives, their truth. Never underestimate the influence of composed eye contact. It's not about staring people down. It's about signaling dominance through serenity. Your eyes should speak confidence that words could never match. A calm face, a controlled posture, and an unflinching gaze. All these tell the story of someone who does not need to prove anything. That is how Machiavelli himself navigated courts filled with liars, flatterers, and kings. He understood that when your eyes hold steadiness, you disarm manipulation. No one can easily deceive the one who observes too deeply and speaks too little. In conversation, power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one whose silence makes others talk more, reveal more, and submit more. When you speak with your eyes, you transcend words. You become the one everyone looks toward, the axis of attention. And when all eyes are drawn to you, you don't need to fight for power. You've already taken it without a sound. Machiavelli understood one eternal truth about human nature. People are desperate to be understood. They want to be seen, heard, and validated. And because of that, they reveal far more than they should. The fool rushes to speak, to make his presence known, to impress others with his wit or intelligence. But the wise man, the strategist, the silent ruler, he waits. He lets others talk first. Because in their eagerness to speak, they expose the map of their soul. When you let others go first, you do not lose power, you gain it. You turn every word they say into data. You hear their tone, their priorities, their fears. You discover who they respect and who they despise. You learn what triggers them, what flatters them, and what they are hiding behind carefully chosen phrases. Machiavelli would call this the art of silent intelligence gathering. The longer you allow someone to speak, the more naked their mind becomes. They think they are leading the conversation, but in truth, they are stepping into your trap. Most people speak not to communicate, but to prove something, to prove their knowledge, their importance, their dominance. They want to impress, to persuade, to control, and that makes them predictable. If you remain quiet, attentive, and patient, they will keep talking, thinking they have your full submission. But what they don't realize is that you are dissecting every word. You are reading the motives behind their sentences. You are collecting ammunition without ever having to draw your sword. Machiavelli believed that power comes to those who can observe longer than others can perform. In conversation, silence is not passivity, it's preparation. The man who listens learns how to strike precisely when it matters most. Imagine a court full of nobles flattering a prince, each trying to speak louder, smarter, more convincingly. Now picture one man standing quietly, listening intently. The prince begins to notice him, the one who says nothing. Curiosity grows. Suspicion forms. What does he think? Why does he not speak? That man, without saying a word, becomes the most powerful figure in the room. You can do the same. When you let others reveal themselves, you shift the balance of power without them realizing. You become the observer, and the observer always controls the outcome. Because once you know what drives someone, you can predict their every move. You can tailor your responses to manipulate their emotions, to mirror their desires, to make them trust you or fear you, depending on what serves your purpose. Machiavelli would say that most men betray themselves through small things, their choice of words, their impatience to be understood, the stories they tell. If you interrupt them, you lose that insight. If you stay quiet, they dig deeper into their own minds trying to impress you. They start confessing more than they planned. They give away power piece by piece, thinking they are holding your attention, when in truth, you are extracting their truth. There's a strange psychology in silence. It makes people feel safe, but also exposed. When you look genuinely interested and say little, people open up to fill the quiet. They talk about their ideas, their frustrations, their victories. And within those stories lie their vulnerabilities. Silence draws honesty out of them, not because you demand it, but because they cannot bear the emptiness of it. They want to be understood, and you become the one who seems to understand them most. That's influence born from patience. In politics, in business, in relationships, those who talk less and listen more always hold the advantage. Because when you speak first, you commit yourself. You reveal your intentions. You show your hand. But when you wait, you see everyone else's cards before you play your own. That is why Machiavelli advised rulers to let others exhaust themselves first. He knew that the one who listens controls timing, and timing is the foundation of power. Think about every great manipulator, every successful negotiator. They all share this skill. They speak last, they nod, they observe, and they let others dig their own rhetorical graves. And when they finally respond, their words are perfectly calculated, because they have already gathered everything they need. The silence before they speak becomes their strategy, not hesitation. The delay gives them insight, while others lose composure trying to fill the air. When you let others reveal themselves first, you transform conversation into intelligence warfare. Every pause, every hesitation, every overly detailed story, they all expose something about the speaker. You begin to read patterns, emotional tells, weaknesses. And the best part, they think you're just being kind, attentive, and interested. But Machiavelli would smile at that illusion, because kindness in this context is camouflage. It hides the sharpest blade of power awareness. The art of conversation is not in what you say, but in what you can extract without speaking. The more you let others talk, the more you remain in control. Because by the time they finish their performance, you already know how to respond in a way that makes them feel seen yet silently dominated. In a world where everyone wants to be heard first, be the one who listens last. That's where the real power hides, in the silence before you decide to speak. Machiavelli once observed that a ruler who speaks too much invites rebellion through his words. Every unnecessary sentence, every over-explained idea, every desperate attempt to be understood weakens authority. Because when you speak endlessly, you give your thoughts away freely, and the world learns how to read you. But when you speak little, when every word feels deliberate, measured, and charged with meaning, your silence becomes a weapon and your voice an execution. You have to understand the psychology behind it. People equate mystery with power. The less you say, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the greater you become in their minds. Machiavelli knew that authority was built not through abundance of speech, but through its scarcity. When you speak in fragments, in controlled, precise language, you force others to fill in the blanks. They interpret, they project, they assume. And in that web of assumption, you control their perception. Every word should hit like a strike, not a spray of noise. You must speak as if your words are rare currency, spent only when it brings profit. The fool speaks quickly to prove he knows something. The wise man pauses, calculates, and says less than he could. He leaves space around his words. That space creates curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of power, because people lean in closer to what they can't fully grasp. They hang on to every word as if it carries hidden meaning. Machiavelli would say that power in speech lies not in volume, but in weight. You could whisper a single sentence, and it could command more respect than a man shouting paragraphs. It's not about how much you say, it's about how much others feel when you say it. The strong speak with composure, with clarity, and with an undertone that suggests they know far more than they reveal. Every word should sound like the tip of an iceberg, implying vast knowledge hidden beneath the surface. When you master this, conversations become your arena. Others will talk endlessly, trying to prove themselves, trying to gain your approval. Let them. Their words are wind, yours are stone. You sit back, watch, and when you finally decide to speak, you drop a single phrase that cuts through their noise. The room shifts. The attention returns to you. The one who speaks less always seems wiser, not because he knows more, but because he reveals less. That's the illusion you must craft, the illusion of mastery through silence. People will test you. They'll try to drag you into explanations, debates, and arguments. But remember this, explaining too much is a confession. The more you justify, the weaker your position becomes. Machiavelli advised rulers to let their actions explain themselves. You must do the same with your words. Speak once, clearly. Let your sentence stand unchallenged. Let silence follow your statement. It makes people doubt their own opinions. They'll start to wonder if they missed something, if you know more than you've said. That doubt gives you control. Minimal speech also guards you from emotional exposure. When you talk too much, emotion leaks through your tone: anger, fear, pride, insecurity. When you say less, you conceal your emotional code. No one can predict you. No one knows what offends you or what pleases you. That uncertainty makes others cautious around you. They choose their words carefully. They avoid offending you. They seek your reaction, and in that carefulness, you gain the upper hand. Silence forces others to orbit your calm. Think of Machiavelli in the Florentine courts, surrounded by nobles and schemers. He didn't compete to be heard, he waited. And when he finally spoke, his words landed like cold steel, short, logical, cutting through pretense. That's how he survived. That's how he influenced kings who could destroy him with a gesture. His defense wasn't noise, it was restraint. And his restraint made his intellect undeniable. You must do the same. There's an ancient power in understatement. When you underspeak, you draw people into your gravity. They try to interpret you. They discuss your silence after you leave. They debate your meaning, your tone, your intention. You make them work to understand you, and that effort binds their attention to you. They become invested in your mystery. The more they try to decode you, the more power you hold over their imagination. In conversation, never rush to fill the silence after you speak. Let your words linger. Let them echo in the mind of the listener. People reveal their position by how they respond to silence. Those who panic will talk too much, trying to fill the emptiness. Those who respect it will stay quiet, knowing they're in the presence of something deliberate. That's when you'll know who's strong and who's desperate. Machiavelli would remind you that in politics, in negotiation, in every exchange of power, language is a double-edged sword. It can elevate or destroy you, so wield it like a blade. Sharpen it by cutting away what's unnecessary. Speak only when silence has already said enough. Let your words enter softly but strike deeply. Because when your sentences are rare, they become sacred. And when your voice holds scarcity, it breeds reverence. Every time you speak with precision, you turn conversation into control. Every pause becomes strategy. Every sentence becomes a verdict. There's a hidden law in power, one that Machiavelli understood better than anyone else. The moment you react emotionally, you hand control to the other person. The man who controls your reaction controls you. And that is why silence, stillness, and composure are the greatest tools of dominance. Most people live like open books. Any insult, any provocation, any challenge flips their emotions instantly. They rush to explain, to defend, to prove themselves right. But the Machiavellian mind knows that to defend is to kneel. The moment you start defending, you're no longer defining the conversation. You're responding to it. Machiavelli believed that perception was stronger than truth. If people see you as calm and unshaken, it doesn't matter what they say about you. You've already won the psychological battle. Because when you stay composed under fire, your stillness becomes a mirror that exposes their weakness. The louder they get, the smaller they look. The calmer you remain, the more powerful your presence becomes. It's the art of strategic non-reaction, where silence itself becomes armor. Imagine this. Someone attacks you with words, questioning your intelligence, your worth, your credibility. The instinctive response is to defend yourself, to explain, to fight back. But Machiavelli would tell you, resist that instinct. When you defend, you validate their attack. You show that their words pierced you. But when you do nothing, when you simply look at them with quiet composure, you turn their aggression against them. The room begins to notice the imbalance. One man is calm, the other is losing control. Power instantly shifts. People stop hearing what's being said and start seeing who appears stronger. This is not weakness. This is strategy. The Machiavellian understands that emotion is the leash that controls most people. The world belongs to those who can remain unprovoked. When you stay silent in the face of insult, you're not being passive. You're making the other person drown in their own noise. They will grow uncomfortable with your calm. They'll push harder, hoping for a reaction. The more they push, the more desperate they look. You don't need to win the argument. You just need to make them reveal their instability. In politics, Machiavelli observed that princes who reacted quickly to rumors or criticism often destroyed their credibility. Every time they defended themselves, they appeared insecure. But the rulers who stayed silent, who let accusations echo unanswered, kept their mystique intact. Their silence made people question the accuser instead. The lesson is clear when someone tries to drag you into emotional chaos. Don't enter the battlefield. Let them swing their sword into the air. You win by refusing to fight on their terms. You must remember, people feed on reactions. The manipulator, the critic, the attention seeker, they all survive on your emotional response. The moment you stay still, their game collapses. They don't know what to do with someone who won't engage. They grow frustrated, confused, and eventually powerless. Your calm becomes their cage. Machiavelli knew that control is not about speaking louder, it's about speaking last, and sometimes not at all. Controlling your reactions also builds psychological leverage. People start to see you as unpredictable, unreadable. They can't manipulate what they can't provoke. They begin to fear offending you, even unintentionally, because they can't predict how you'll respond, or if you'll respond at all. That uncertainty makes them cautious. They start adjusting themselves around you. They measure their tone, their words, their gestures. Without saying anything, you've shifted the entire dynamic. There's also dignity in non-reaction, a quiet authority that words cannot imitate. When you smile slightly in the face of insult, it's not just confidence, it's dominance. It tells the world that your emotions are your own kingdom and no one enters without permission. The greatest kings in history didn't argue with peasants. They simply observed, unmoved. That's how you must carry yourself in conversation. Speak less, feel less outwardly, and never let someone drag you into their chaos. Because the louder they get, the more their weakness echoes. Machiavelli would remind you that your silence, your lack of reaction, can often humiliate your enemies more than any sharp reply. Words fade, but composure stings. It's like striking without moving. When people realize they can't shake you, they begin to respect you or fear you. Either outcome serves you. Your calm becomes a weapon they can't fight against, a shield they can't pierce. And when you finally decide to respond, it should be deliberate, measured, surgical. You don't explain, you declare. You don't argue, you conclude. Because every word after silence carries weight, and every composed response carries power. This is the Machiavellian art of reactions. Stay still, let others lose themselves in emotion, and when the storm settles, you're the only one left standing untouched. There's a moment, right after you speak, that reveals more about your power than your words ever could. It's the silence that follows, the space where your words echo in the minds of others. Most people rush to fill this silence. They fidget, explain, defend, or elaborate, desperate to make their point land. But Machiavelli would tell you, that's the greatest mistake a man of influence can make, because silence after speech is not emptiness, it is dominance made invisible. When you've spoken, stop. Let the air hang heavy with your last words. Let your listener drown in their own thoughts, trying to interpret what you mean, trying to guess your intent. The more they think, the more they fall under your control. This is the moment where most people reveal their weakness. They can't bear the tension, but the Machiavellian mind thrives in tension. The silence after speech is not an absence of communication, it's the height of it. It says, I've said enough. You will think about it now. This silence does not just make you appear confident, it makes you appear dangerous. Because a man who doesn't rush to explain himself appears to have secrets. People fear secrets. They project power onto those who seem to know more than they say. The court of Florence was filled with men who spoke endlessly, trying to impress others with their intellect. But the ones who ruled the room, they were those who spoke little, then let silence complete their sentences. Their restraint created mystique, and mystique creates control. When you master this, you begin to see something curious. Silence distorts perception. After you stop speaking, people don't remember your exact words, they remember how your silence felt. If your silence follows a firm statement, it feels authoritative. If it follows a question, it feels like a trap. If it follows a smile, it feels manipulative, maybe even seductive. Machiavelli understood this deeply. What people think of you isn't shaped by what you say, but by what you make them imagine after you've said it. Silence gives space for imagination, and imagination is where your power multiplies. Think of every negotiation, every confrontation, every conversation as a duel, not of swords, but of patience. The one who can stay silent longer holds the blade. When you stop speaking and look at someone calmly, without fear, without hurry, you throw them into uncertainty. Should they continue? Should they explain? Should they defend themselves? Their mind starts racing, and that's when you've already won. Because when someone starts to think too much, they lose the natural rhythm of control. You've shifted the balance. They speak from reaction. You remain composed. Silence after speech also forces people to value your words more. If you keep talking, your words become cheap. But if you speak once powerfully and then stop, your words grow in importance. It's like gold, its scarcity gives it worth. When you say little, people dissect every word. They quote you. They analyze your tone. They replay your pauses in their head. You become not just a participant in conversation, but an enigma, a figure that lingers in their mind long after the dialogue ends. And yet, silence is not always passive. It's a calculated act. You use it to make others reveal themselves. When you pause, when you don't respond immediately, people feel the pressure to fill the void. And in that rush, they often expose their intentions, their fears, their hidden thoughts. They speak to fill the discomfort that you control. You, by saying nothing, guide what they say next. This is the ultimate paradox of conversational power. Silence directs speech. Power does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and often it says nothing at all. To dominate conversations without speaking, much is to understand the secret rhythm of human nature. That words are only half of communication. The other half lies in silence, presence, and control. Machiavelli would tell you the wise man governs not through noise, but through influence. He listens more than he talks, speaks only when it serves his purpose, and lets silence do the work of 10 speeches. His pauses are not hesitation, they are strategy. His calmness is not weakness, it is a form of command. When you master the art of measured speech, you no longer chase approval. Others chase your attention. When you hold your words, people lean closer. When you speak with precision, they fall silent. And when you choose silence, they reveal everything. The modern world glorifies constant talking, endless opinions, and loud confidence. But the truth Machiavelli understood still stands: power belongs to those who can remain quiet in chaos, composed in conversation, and deliberate in their words. So, let others talk themselves into weakness. You rule the room with your restraint. Because in a world where everyone wants to be heard, the one who doesn't need to speak becomes the one everyone listens to.